The Pope is a lizard, and so is the Queen, who murdered Diana and got away clean. Obama's a Kenyan, and Reagan caused AIDS. George Bush had abortions, or so people say. They knocked Norma Jean off, they killed JFK, who got shot and poisoned by the CIA. They faked the moon landings, but Roswell was real. There's drugs in the water and worms in our meals. They can't hide the chemtrails. We can't trust vaccines. We all know that jet fuel can melt through steel beams. And the New World Order will brainwash your kids and use MK Ultra to hide what they do.
Greetings and salutations, old friends and hopefully some new friends. Welcome to Truthseekers. I am your host, Stephen Cambion. As always with you, ready to delve into some strange mystery. Tonight, we're going to be talking about alchemy, which is something that I will readily admit I don't know an incredible amount about. I think I may have 2 or 3 books total on alchemy and the history of alchemy. It's interesting to me, even just the history of this thing is steeped in mystery. Some of these little known formulas or recipes have been handed down from generation to generation, taught in secret societies and mystery schools, and the history continues. I was quite shocked well, not shocked, but definitely a little surprised to hear that people are still interested in this ancient art form. People are still digging through this ancient art form and trying to make new discoveries, trying to sift through old manuscripts and find those secrets. Secrets like the ability to transmute one metal into another. One can imagine what a secret like that could be worth. After all, if you could take the most famous example, of course, is turning lead into gold. The most, I would say, famous example of alchemy is that many alchemists were looking for this secret, the secret of turning lead into gold. Many claimed that they had that secret, but the actual proof of claims like that go back out throughout history for thousands of years, it's very scarce. What we get is an awful lot of tantalizing evidence of secret knowledge. But some things from alchemy sure have shown to have validity. Things like electroplating and other things that became real sciences came from alchemy. So we have our guest tonight, Bernard the Alchemist. I'm going to bring him in here. How you doing tonight, Bernard?
Hello. I'm doing all right. Injured myself a bit last night while moving one of my silkscreen presses, but
Yeah.
I am here and I am alive. So
Well,
we
I
will
thought
see.
tonight. I thought tonight we can do a quick one since you're not. What did you break your collarbone or something?
I might have. I don't know. I can't really put weight
Yeah,
on it. I
yeah,
had
yeah.
like
Like 5 minutes before the show, he's like, "Yeah, maybe I ought to go to the hospital. I think I broke my back or my, okay." So, I guess where I would begin, because I'm not hugely knowledgeable about this subject, read a few books, and I'm fascinated with the history, but I thought that we could begin, since you're probably more knowledgeable than me on this subject, is to talk about some of the history and where this thing came from and what it was about back in the day versus my shock that there's still people trying to do this today. So
so.
let's start with the history.
Yeah, from what I've been reading now, and I've been in it about 4 or 5 years now, really into the alchemy. And it seems the more I look into it, the more I discover that it was an extremely advanced science. It was all encompassing and it was extremely suppressed, compartmentalized, and yeah, like it's never really been declassified. And a good place to start, and where I basically started, was with Sir Isaac Newton's recently declassified alchemy writings. And he wrote over 1 million pages, or 1 million words, I guess it was, on
I think it's a million
alchemy.
words. Yeah, yeah. But how fascinating that stuff was just recently released for people to peruse through. Wasn't it in the hands of a private collector, I believe?
Yeah, it was in the hands of a private collector, I think, since the early 1900s when they bought it at auction, and then they had finally just made it public, or it might have been resold
Yeah, I
maybe
think I
in
heard something
the
like
early
that. So
2000s or something, and then
yeah, so
now
it
it's
took
been published.
120 plus years for somebody to actually make these writings public, and it's interesting just to know that Sir Isaac Newton was so into this that he would write 1 million words on this.
And the fact of the matter is, and they still try to claim, like, oh, it's all esoteric. He writes all about God and angels in it and stuff. And it's like, there are parts of that, but that's completely separate section that I believe they call his prophecy writings. And the alchemy is actually all real science that involves light, energy, electricity, and the chemistry, as well as the transmutational states of metals. And it has to do with plasma physics, and that the monoatomic state of metals is actually their plasma state, the force state of matter. And that your gas atoms, when they're in plasma state, they call it ionized gas, but they're
So
monatomic
these guys knew about things like plasma before
Yes,
we knew they were discovered as far as mainstream science goes, and they knew about electricity before. And there's
yes, sir.
historical. The thing that's interesting to me about some of alchemy is that there's historical, proof that they knew some of the things like their understanding or belief, not belief, their discovery and use of things like electricity predate re, what would we call modern or real science date of discovery. So you
Yeah.
were talking about this before, like we get that story of Ben Franklin flying a kite and with a key on it, and he discovers electricity in the 1700s. But we have proof that there was others that were using this before that.
And looking back, any French or German science book from the 1600s or older literally have chapters dedicated to atmospheric electricity, what level you're at from the ground, and the charge potential between where you are in the sky to the ground and the hertz between it. So they fully were aware of electricity and studying it and using it throughout Europe at least 500 years ago.
Oh, let me stop you
And
there. Or no, I don't want to stop you there. I gotta find it. Oh no, I can't find it. We got a kind and generous super sticker here from Welcome to the Show, but I think it's
thank
too
you for
far
supporting
back
the
now.
cause.
Yeah, thank you for supporting the cause, and let me just give them a proper thank you if I could find it. Okay. So thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support. There's a money button down there if you feel like throwing money at me, friends. That is the primary income source of the show that helps us keep the ball moving forward. And Bernard keeps disappearing. I don't know.
I'm
If
just
he's...
connecting my other computer here to the link.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you got quite a room going there. What is this? Is this your artwork or?
So I own two clothing lines, Burn Cron and Honor the Culture, as well as I do my own silk screening, and this is part of my art collection. I own a 350 piece painting art collection that I'm actually now working on digitizing and turning into crypto NFTs. So if
Oh, that's
people like my
interesting. You're gonna cash
if
in,
people
right?
like the artwork, they can
And
buy
it's a unique. Every NFT is unique and
exactly. So I'm
unto
about to
itself. Yeah.
make them into some NFTs where there'll be some one-offs. So if you really like a piece, let me know, and I can sell you the original and only NFT copies of them. And then some of them I will make for really cheap, but make like an unlimited amount of. But you'll be able to buy a copy for $1. So why not?
So back to electricity. So we have these alchemists are messing with electricity, discovering things about it, trying to understand it, and trying to use it for a much longer period than we're told through regular history, as far as science discovering electricity and trying to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so alchem, it's electrochemistry. It's electricity and chemistry combined. That's what alchemy is. And it's in the root of the word. So right there, it's like, okay, well, when was that word first invented in English? Because they had electricity at least then. But what I really started to notice was I was doing these GANs and plasma experiments from the Keshe Foundation about 8 years ago. I started, and then I guess 5 years ago now that I started reading right when Isaac Newton's works were published, and these
I have
things
to
like,
admit, I got that stuff and I started reading through it and I got bored and I got
well,
sidetracked. I
to
didn't
the
get
average
through it.
person, it makes no sense. It's like
It's
when
pretty
the metal
esoteric.
is live, when the metal is in
It's
its
pretty
yellow.
esoteric and hard to read. You
right?
can't
But it's
just.
actually all
It's not that
encoded.
many pages, and you can read it, but it's just so dense. It's kind of like the Urantia book in that way, and that like you got to read a sentence and stop and think about it for 10 minutes before you read the
Exactly.
next sentence, or you're not going to get anything out of it. And it beat me up. That whole collection beat me up, and I didn't get through it. Just like the Urantia book, I've never gotten through that. I've got halfway through that. I can't seem
Sorry.
to make it through some of this stuff. It gets too complicated, and my brain starts hurting, or maybe I lack the understanding to, you know, actually
Well,
comprehend
so
the stuff.
I'll show right here.
Oh, here I could
You see
solo you.
the four states. You have earth, water, air, fire. Well, that's actually solid, liquid, gas, plasma. That's the four states of matter right there. We, it's completely. Steve, where'd you go?
No, no,
Steve.
I'm here.
Oh, you're still here.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
here. I
sorry.
just soloed you so you could show that,
Yeah, yeah.
thing better. Yeah.
Sorry. Sometimes I like accidentally exit the stream, so I didn't know if you could still.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I ought
it's
to
like
leave you alone. You know what I ought to do? I ought to leave you alone here for 75 minutes. And we can
right.
talk for
Yeah,
75
payback.
minutes without me. You know? Yeah. I have half of mine. I got other things I could do. I'll just drop out and you can explain everything. No, I do have
Right.
some questions, though. And we're
So
joking about Bernard didn't make it one time, and I was on air frantically trying to fill 75 minutes. Here, we'll put
so
this. We'll
right
solo you
there,
again. There you go. Yeah.
that's solid, liquid, gas, plasma that they knew, and plus elements. Well, that's plus the periodic table of elements and their four states of matter. Right there is knowledge that we are just beginning to figure out right now. And one of Isaac Newton's main things he says is that all metals can be broken down into, he calls it their mercurial, which I believe is molecular or atomic, monoatomic state, and that they turn into this white powder when they get into this state. And right there, that confirms and goes along with David Hudson's talk about monoatomic gold and all elements going into their monoatomic state. And that it's that I believe when they're in this monoatomic state, that's their plasma state. And they're since they're a single atom, there's no covalent bonds. That's what gets rid of that quantum locking with all other particles, so that's how you're accessing this fourth higher dimensional plasma, and where you're going to get this superconductivity in your nanostructures, in your new technology, that they're actually getting the over unity superconducting, and it's because they're
Well, they're
using
trying.
plasma state.
I think a lot of people are trying. I think the
Yeah.
jury's still out about whether anybody has done it. But I
Well,
love things like over
anyone
unity
officially,
devices and Hutchinson's
because the
crystal
military
battery
has it,
cells.
and the military knows lots about plasma and monoatomics and superconductors.
Yeah, I would think that they certainly know more than we do. They're worlds ahead with the trillions of dollars in black budget money that they're spending on research. But let's get back to this sort of ancient art of alchemy, because I find it fascinating that like secret knowledge is power, and any man that wielded knowledge another didn't have had an advantage. Like for example, like let's say the first guys who learned how to work metals, right? They had a
Then
huge
they can make
advantage, and so
swords
did
and
their
everything.
tribes, because now we're not going to fight with sticks sharpened off on a rock. We're gonna make spears and swords and knives and armor. And alchemists, or those knowledgeable men, shamans of the tribe, have always had a place there, right? To be the provider of this secret knowledge.
And even in Isaac Newton's, as well as every other alchemy writing that I've since read, every single one starts off with sharing this knowledge with common folk is punishable by death. If you understand this, go immediately to your monarch, to your king or queen, and only work for them. And that is the briefing that starts every single alchemical writing.
So it seems that the rich and the powerful and the elite ruling class having access to technology above and beyond the common man is not anything new, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like you look back to like the beginning of what we're told is electricity, and you have these Leyden jars and stuff like that. And then you look now at the findings of the Baghdad battery, which was been around for thousands of years. And it's actually pretty identical to what Keshi is teaching with his cup of life, and what I started out with of just literally salt water, an anode and a cathode. And that is your plasma battery. That is what can create electricity. That's what can create this fountain of youth water, the monoatomics, the colloidal silver, your structured water, as well as if you attach it to an antenna and to a ground, it's giving you current. So it's who really knows what the true history is and how long it's been around, but I encourage people to look into these French and German books from the 1500s, because even the pictures in it, like I've looked through them. I can't read it, obviously. I don't know ancient German.
You're gonna get a translator just to try to figure it out. Yeah.
But the pictures themselves, it's like they have the lines of like, it's like what do you call it? In Paris, the Eiffel Tower, and that then they have the waves going up above it, and there's like several of them, and each one they have the hertz frequency, and it's like, this is 500 years old. How were they able to measure these hertz frequencies and know what they were and have that
exactly,
all? Like,
yeah, yeah. And
so
this is what I love. This ancient. This revelation, really, when you get into some of this stuff, that primitive man may not have been so primitive, and maybe they had some secrets that have been lost to history throughout this whole thing. But one of the most famous, of course, these things in alchemy is transmuting metals. And I know we get electroplating and some things from electricity and magnetism from alchemy, but this transmutation of metals, it's always fascinated me, but also kind of went, I don't know that this works, or I don't think this works. You know, not unless you have like a nuclear power plant at your disposal to transmute elements that way.
I think I figured it out, and it has to do with cold fusion, not hot fusion. And it's in the electrolysis process, and it has to do with measuring the hertz frequency, so your resonant frequency of the actual metals that you're using on your anode cathode side, as well as the resonant frequency of the metal that you want to transmutate into. And when you put in the voltage on your anode cathode sides of the metals that you want to transmutate into, and you're using one metal off, so like gold, you'd have tungsten on the cathode side, or tungsten on the anode side, and the metal on the cathode side, it producing through electrolysis your atomic hydrogen. And then by having the resonant frequency going through of the gold, that atomic hydrogen bonds, or not just bonds, it goes into and fuses with the tungsten. Once you have the tungsten in what Isaac Newton calls the seventh state of transmutation, which is the crystalline state, and that's where they turn pink and they glisten. And I've gotten like 8 different metals into this state now, and that I've theorized, if you have that right frequency going through it, that the atomic hydrogen being produced in that electrolysis fuses with the tungsten and actually produces the gold. And I need a couple of variacs to be able to test this, and I also need a better lab than my backyard, as it is cold fusion. There is possibilities of radiation coming out. That's why, like, Martin Fleischmann, the original inventor of cold fusion, died of radiation poisoning. And it's also why I believe so many of these ancient alchemists randomly died of these sicknesses, is that they also...
Didn't a lot of them die from mercury poisoning, too? A lot of them were killed with mercury?
They say mercury. Who knows if it was or not? It's quite probable. And one of the transmutations that seems to happen a lot in this electrolysis alchemy process, all the ancient alchemists claim it's making mercury, but I get these red powders, and it's what looks like it's a mercury oxide that's forming, but it's coming from copper, it's coming from aluminum, it's coming from gold, silver, and zinc and iron. Yet they all produce this red liquidy stuff while it's in the water at the bottom. So
Have you had that material tested though,
I
like in
have
a
yet to. I'm trying to
spectrometer or
find places
mass
that I can
spectrometer?
send it to because I would absolutely love to. And then there's also the yellow state that they say is the sulfur state. And they say when a metal is live. So someone's like, what the hell does that mean? Oh, no, what it means is when it's live with current going through it. So they
Okay.
had electricity. And I've had it several times that when you break the anode off, while it's live, it starts producing. It's like it's bleeding yellow. It bleeds sulfur. So it's like, where does this sulfur come from? And it just starts shooting out yellow sulfur
Yes, but
nanotubes.
in fairness, you're equating colors to different metals, right? Like,
Yeah, yes,
well,
I
the water
am,
turns
and
green,
I'm
so that's copper, right?
well. No, no, green blue is oxidization. So it's when what copper oxidizes it turns blue.
I'm just
And
trying to establish that just because you're
yeah,
getting like colored goop in the jars, we get, I'd really
so
like to see mass spectrometry done on
me
that
too. Me
material.
too. Here, Steve, give me like about 4 or 5 minutes here to hook up my other computer and camera so I can start showing you some of the examples I'm talking about.
Okay, sure, sure. I'll
And
take some
I,
questions and
I
comments from the
say,
live chat in the meantime.
although I'm saying it with like authority that this color is this metal, I'm getting the reference from all of
No, I'm
the
just trying to
ancient
be.
alchemist
Yeah,
writing.
I
Like
agree,
that's
but
where
I'm
I'm
just trying to
pulling
be
it from.
clear in that,
And
like,
then also it's what is being produced in my reaction. So I haven't tested it. I want to get it tested. I would love to get it tested to see if it's the actual case or not. But that's where I'm getting the reference from is from the ancient writings, and then it's the results that making with my own experiments, just for the
sure,
audience
sure,
to
sure.
figure.
And I'll take some comments and questions in the meantime until you're able to come back. So, comments, questions, suggestions. I will dedicate my full and total attention to the live chat. And I heard Matthew Riot ask that is he claiming he's achieved um cold fusion, and we can get back to that. These are strange fringe sciences with strange, sometimes strange fringe researchers trying to make some new discoveries in ancient art forms like these and digging into, we've heard that he's digging into all of these old texts, trying to find some clues to point him in the right direction towards uh, what I suppose is a goal of his is to prove that transmutation of one metal into another is not only possible but repeatable. I think it would take that for proof. It would have to be an experiment, and the person would show this is what I did to achieve this transmutation, and then other people other people can repeat the same experiment and get the same results. Matthew Wright says, I respect the ancient art forms and it's fascinating. He may be at the beginning an excitable learning stage. Yeah, and Lord Ludicrous Platt is asking, are you going to do a show on the lady speaking tomorrow at the Washington Monument that is going to take scientists to meet the aliens in a cave? Sure we are. Sure we are, Lord Ludicrous, because that's what we do here, right? Do I have to cover that? Is that something that people want me to cover? Because I'm going to tell you right now that it's probably a nothing burger. I'm pretty sure there's no aliens in a cave that she's going to go show the scientists. But stranger things have happened. After all, it's 2021, right? Look at the strange things that have happened in the past year. Um, yeah, and while we're waiting, I just wanted to mention a lot of people concerned with and tweeting about what's going on in Afghanistan, and I consider the entire event from beginning to end and one huge tragedy, both for the people of Afghanistan and for our own people. We've wasted countless lives there. We've wasted I thought it was $880 billion, but the president today said we've spent over a trillion on that war. And I'd just like to ask you, what is it that we got for it, right? You know, it's like that song, War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yeah, so it's kind of where I'm at with it. I think it was a waste of money and certainly a waste of American lives, and not to mention all of those soldiers that did return but were psychologically scarred for life, unable to function in society, and we have to take care of them. We sent them off to that terrible war. And, people are talking about what this means, and I said on Twitter jokingly that this means that the CIA has lost the opium trade that has been so profitable for them for the last, how long have we been there? 20 years? And now I predict that we'll see an increase in the fentanyl pouring into the United States. People who want to use those things are going to use them. If they can't get heroin, they'll take fentanyl.
Couldn't agree more with you.
Let's bring them back here. Here we go. There we go.
And I myself, I've recovered from an OxyContin opiate addiction that was caused by a doctor prescription. I was addicted.
I never got too deep into them, but I had prescriptions because of my brain aneurysm and my paralyzed eye. A lot of people don't know this, but if you have a brain aneurysm and it leaves an eye paralyzed, you get this weird pain behind your eye. It's like somebody stabbing you with a needle from behind your eye because the nerves died. And that necropolis is very painful, and it just never stops. So they load you up. You're like, what do you want, Percocet? You want OxyContin? Yeah. What do you want? And does it work? Not really. It just makes you unable to function. So I saw natural alternatives and have not had any of that stuff.
Gaps in my spine that cause slip discs, so that's why a doctor prescribed to me at the age of 22 OxyContin, and it was 10 years of my life. I'm lucky to be alive. At one point, 2 years into the prescription, the doctor was prescribing me, and I was taking 18 80-milligram OxyContins a day.
Wow, that's like cancer patient levels, right?
That's enough to kill a horse. And it's like every time she'd give me 3 months prescription, like since it started out, and I'd take it in a month, and then I'd go back and she'd be like, oh, this is how much you need. And then she'd write 3 months more, but like what I had just taken in that month. And like it kept going up and up and up to that point where I was at 1880s a day. And then I ran out and I couldn't get a doctor's prescription. It was the first time I had ever run out and faced the withdrawal over a weekend, and I damn near died. And that's when I was like, what the heck is this shit? And started like trying to wean myself down and whatnot. And it was like 2 months after that, I had gotten from 18 down to 10. So I was still doing 800 milligrams a day.
Yeah, somebody in the live chat is mentioning kratom, or kratom, people call it in the United States, but I think,
I've heard that works.
And but I just want to mention, see your doctor. And consult your doctor.
Or don't if they want to prescribe you opiates.
Yeah, I might agree with that, because I think natural remedies and kratom has shown some incredible promise for people that were once using opioids, and choose that.
I had to
consult your doctor.
To come off of it,
our point is, the opiates are bad. They are bad.
They are very bad. I've been clean now for 2.5 years, and that is why I'm finally doing something with my life again, and not just a walking zombie.
Yeah, and I think that people are quick to jump to medicine, especially for things that I don't think that a pill can solve, like depression, and But again, consult your doctor. So back to alchemy. We were talking about some of the history of this stuff. And you were talking about cold fusion. So am I understanding you right in that you believe that the secret to these transmuting metals may lie in cold fusion process?
Yes, 100%. And it has to do with like Tesla's vibration frequency energy resonance model, and that it's when you're resonating a molecule, so like that's the Hertz frequency of it, and every single atom, every single element, every single being, like your DNA, that's your resonant frequency, and what your DNA is adding up every single atom in your DNA chain, and the mass of that is your actual resonant frequency. So metals, pure element metals, their resonant frequency is obviously a lot easier because it's just a single adding up.
Element.
Yeah, it's just adding up the mass of the electrons, neutrons, and protons within the atom. And when you're putting that resonant frequency as your voltage through the anode cathode into the reaction, that's how it's cold, is that you're making it vibrate at that same like universal frequency as it's naturally vibrating at. So you're not trying to like force through pressure like hot fusion is, of like heating it up, melting it, and pressurizing it in and forcing it into a new fused molecule. It's just vibrating like it naturally is, and that they just all line up into their
Okay.
yeah, entertainment at the same
It's
time.
science.
It's science.
Okay, so we vibrate the metal at its natural resonance frequency, and that
Yeah.
will cause what though?
So then that's causing it to resonate at what it naturally is. So think of like tuning forks, and how if you hit a tuning fork at the same frequency, everything in that area then starts of that same frequency magically starts moving simultaneously energy from where, right? But it's like that's something that's over unity, that's also action at a distance that isn't explained in modern science. And it has to do with resonance, and that when you have something resonating at its resonant frequency, that's the natural harmony of it. And just I can't like fully explain it, but basically that when you have the other metal that you're trying to transmutate, you have to have it also in this crystalline state. And it's something to do with that, and that in the electrolysis, you're producing atomic hydrogen out of that water, and that atomic hydrogen is a key part of all fusion, as well as you're producing deuterium in this reaction as well. So there's actual cold fusion going on, and somehow through that, aligning it with its resonant frequency while it's in this transmutational state, it's just how nature, I guess, works, and it's how you produce it. Do you want to let in that other camera there?
Yeah,
so
sure,
I can.
Sure.
Okay. Just give me another minute here, and I will grab some samples to show and better illustrate what we are talking about.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I'll give them a better look at this. This is some of Bernard's experiments here that he's going to try to explain to us. Looks like my high school chemistry lab in my basement when I was a kid. Except after a while, I would forget what was in each jar. That would be a problem.
Yeah, I definitely label them, so we're good that way.
I just remember this. This is like when I was a kid. I had like a bunch of weird jars in the basement with like different chemicals and I don't know. I was real big on a few different chemicals for rocket building.
Sorry, so I'm just gonna run upstairs here to grab some of the white monoatomic and go outside.
We've only got 18 minutes, so don't we're
we can stay longer. We can do more than just the 1 hour. We can do the full 2 hours. I'm surviving here. My arm's not falling off.
I got many other things I got to do. Maybe we could do a part 2. We can.
No, of course we will do a part 2. Okay,
explain some of these to us.
Okay, give me 30 seconds because the white one is essential. The white one is essential.
All right, we're going to have. Oh, let me see here. Waiting on Bernard here to get another jar full of science stuff. I don't know what this is. Yeah, he's going to explain it. I think these are some of his transmutation experiments. The white one seems essential. Yes, yes, the white one is essential. I don't know what it is, but it's essential. Yeah, and I hear you, Rebecca. It's good. I'm glad that you got a way to become, get off of that stuff and be healthy. I grew up in Kensington, in Philadelphia. Look it up. It's the heroin capital of the East Coast. So I have many friends and family affected by it.
Okay.
For those just joining us, we're talking with Bernard the Alchemist, the strange science guy, and we've discussed some things about alchemy and history and the transmutation of metals, and now he's going to show us some of his experiments and what he's been working on here.
So in those two jars right there, you have one that's pure white at the bottom, one that's pure blue at the bottom. The white one, that is pure monoatomic copper, and the blue one is copper oxide.
Can you explain the difference for people? I'm aware of what that is, but
yeah.
What is the difference between monatomic copper and regular copper?
Well, okay, so monoatomic is a single atom, and it's what I theorize is copper element in its plasma state. And copper, the metal copper, that's copper in its solid state. And when you get any metal into its monoatomic state, it loses all of its solid properties. And it gains these new plasma properties, just like gases do when they're ionized in their plasma state. The same is true for these plasma state ones. And so the copper oxide, this blue one right next to it, all it was changing the frequency slightly going into the electrolysis reaction. And it was just copper on copper anode, copper cathode for both of these reactions. And just changing the frequency, it went from the pure white to then bonding with the oxygen that's being produced in the electrolysis and creating copper oxide, which is then a diatomic, not monoatomic, but di, because it's then got a covalent bond formed with one of the oxygens that's being made in the electrolysis out of the water, instead of just the pure copper itself. So this, even though it's a powder and a diatomic, it could still possibly be plasma, but or a plasmoid is more likely. And then it's when several of them form together into plasmoids, but it's that it doesn't have the same properties as when it's the pure white mono single atom formation. And it's Isaac Newton that talks about every metal being able to be broken down into its purest form of these monoatomics, connecting it with David Hudson's work. He calls it ORMUS, so orbitally rearranged electron molecule, which creates that superconductivity that he talks about when it's monoatomic. And then Keshe calls it GANS, gas, atom, nano, solid, state. So they're all acronyms for the exact same thing.
I don't understand. So first you're saying that this is monoatomic.
The white is monoatomic. The blue is diatomic.
So is that like does this mean there's a multi-step process to get it to the monoatomic?
Yes. Well, no. Okay. So it just like I was talking about that resonant frequency sort of thing. It's you have to have the right electromagnetic field in the reaction or the right current in the reaction between whether it will produce the single atom or whether it's going to bond with the oxygen and create the oxide blue. And then it can also, there's a third state that the same reaction, it'll go red, and then it's 2 oxygens and 1 copper, as opposed to the blue that is just 1 oxygen and 1 copper, or the white that is just copper.
And let me
And
ask you a question: Is
yep.
this reproducible? Like you can
Oh
put
yes,
this to
100%. And there's actually thousands of people online, especially through Keshi's stuff, doing these ones. And um, it it's I've gotten zinc to do these pure monoatomic, as well as the other 6 states colors that. So the alchemists talk about white, blue, red, yellow, um, green, and black, I believe. And so pink is the crystalline state. Red, I theorize, is mercury oxide produced. Yellow, I theorize, is sulfur oxide produced in it. Green is oxidized, and blue is like double oxidized. But they have done
Okay, and
tests.
just so I understand too, like there's a whole lot of people that make an awful lot of claims about monoatomic gold and silver, and people are selling it as snake oil. To me, it's snake oil. Sometimes it's like what ails you? It'll cure you, and then certainly there is scientific proof that silver can be used. It's used in
Colloidal silver,
hospitals.
yep.
Yeah, it's used in hospitals, but as a disinfectant,
Yep.
really, not as an internal medicine, right?
So
Aren't some people pushing this to take internally for different
there's
things?
a lot of it that is snake oil, and it's like they'll call it monoatomic gold or monoatomic silver, and really they're making ormus out of just salt water. So it's literally every atom in the salt water, in the ocean water that they're using. They'll use ocean water, call it monoatomic gold, but it's like anything that was dissolved in that ocean water is now in its plasma state. So it's not gold and it's not silver. It's just ocean water that's now plasmatized. And the monoatomic gold that I make, it's got pure gold bar anode, pure gold bar cathode, gold on gold going in, making this pure white monoatomic gold. And when I call it monoatomic gold, it's literally gold turning into its single atom gold state. And I do the same with silver. And those are real monoatomic golds and silvers. And what there is evidence that those actually will heal you. And then there's the ancient legends that if you eat monoatomic gold, it'll turn you into a demigod. But every person I've heard that has actually done that usually ends up in a mental asylum because it overwhelms them, and there's an actual process of doing it. I have not done it. I don't.
Yeah, and we don't recommend that here.
I
We
do not
don't
recommend people to do it whatsoever. And
just
it's a
any of
science
this
that
stuff.
needs to be researched like thoroughly through and through. The chances are there is something to it. I'm not going to make any claims, or like I haven't. I won't verify any of the results, like, or claim that I have, but I have made the monoatomics that they talk about, right? So that is reproducible. That I have definitely done. Anybody can reproduce. I can show you how. And I've done it out of several different metals. Every single one of them will turn into the white one. Every single one of them will also turn into like the dye or the diatromics, where they bond with the oxygen or they bond with other metals or different stuff, right? So there are these different states, and what the alchemists used in these color coding states, and it is actual chemistry, and it is reproducible.
Yeah, that's
And
what I'm
so
gonna. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I mean, this is somewhat interesting to me, but it's also to me it seems like okay, well, this is just some basic chemistry. Like if you were to put a metal into a certain compound, it might change form slightly, but it's still the same metal. So, but this
here's the
is
thing,
claimed
though.
to be part of the transmutation process into something else, though, right?
When it's in this white, what I'm saying is a plasma state, it loses every single property of its solid state. Like iron in this white state, no longer magnetic. And
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, so there's a lot of huge things to it. But then the white stuff is what can be medically used. So this, I've flushed the salt water out, I've cleaned it over 9 times, and you always wait. You never consume the bottom stuff, but it's what charges. This is colloidal or monoatomic gold, silver, copper, zinc at the bottom. Those 4 are in this one. And then your colloidal gold or colloidal silver is water that then dissolves some of this into it. So I drink this. I only ever drink the top part of it.
Oh, jeez.
But,
Dude,
so that is
you're
strong
braver than
colloidal
me.
silver, colloidal gold, colloidal zinc, colloidal copper water. You never ingest this stuff. You always wait for it to completely settle, because when it's milky like that, that will kill you. That will poison you. That will give you heavy metal poisoning. You never, ever consume the monoatomic
This is
part.
a good
You
question
always
from Matthew,
metal
who's
for
a bit of
day.
a skeptic tonight, but it's okay. Like, everybody's welcome here.
Yeah.
And
This
Matthew's
week-
asking, so has he ever had anything tested to see if he actually achieved said change?
I have not, but the Keshi Foundation, you go onto KFF or KFSSI.
And you're using similar methods to them,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And they've got lots of university studies. They've got studies in Rome, Italy. They've got studies in Ghana, Africa. They've got studies in Australia, and they've got studies in China through several different institutes and universities now. So there is actual real lab science going on in parallel to this. So if you, for instance, your reaction, you ever get any of your metals, the monoatomic, turning into this dye or diatromic blue, green, any color but white, you drink this water, you're going to poison yourself and give yourself heavy metal poisoning and die.
I don't recommend,
Never,
personally,
ever,
I don't recommend anybody drinks any of this
I
stuff,
don't
and
either.
consult your doctor.
I
really.
agree with you. I honestly agree with you, because it is so easy to mess up and poison yourself and kill yourself and do stuff if you don't get it precisely down. And that's why there needs to be so much more research and work done in this field, because there are real there's real stuff to it, but there's also a lot of harm. And then, like you say, there's a lot of these snake charmers out
There's
there.
a lot of snake oil salesmen, yeah.
Don't know what they're doing, and they are selling you stuff that will harm you, not cure you. And that is a huge aspect of it. And lost my train of thought there, but
No, it's quite all right. So, I think that we've done an excellent introduction and given people some idea of some of these things. And you said that this turning these metals into their monoatomic forms is part of the process of the total transformation of metals, right? So this is somehow part of the, first you make it monoatomic and then you could somehow transmute it to another element?
So it's all part of the transmutation process. It's not necessarily that you have to turn it into the monoatomic first. It's that you can either turn it into the monoatomic, you can turn it into the crystal form, the crystalline form, or like the 5 other different states in between. To actually get the real transmutation back into a solid, you have to get it into that crystalline form, then put in the high current, then have the atomic hydrogen through that electrolysis fuse into it. And you have to have enough current going through that it creates a spark gap where the purple-blue plasma actually forms within the water. Between the two, there'll be a spark gap plasma forming, and that will actually cause the fusion reaction of the metals and get the hydrogen to bond in with your crystalline states metal into the reproducing the solid. Another claim that I've heard and I've seen on YouTube a lot, I've never tried it. I would like to, but I need a lab. I'm not going to do it in my backyard. But you can take these different monoatomic, diatomic, triatomic particles, put them into a microwave, and the microwaves will actually cause them like a medium fusion, and it'll turn from the powders into solid state metals that are a fusion of the two molecules or all of the molecules in there. Like, say you have copper and iron or whatever. It's an addition. You add the copper and the iron together, and your new metal is a combination of those two
like
together.
a regular amalgam from regular metallurgy?
Yeah, well, it's actual medium fusion. Like, the solid metal that's coming out is those two atoms fused together. So,
Okay.
yeah, so that is another one, and that has more to do along the experiments with John Hutchinson and stuff like that. And Dan Winters talks about a lot of it.
Yeah, I
as
followed
well
Hutchinson
as
for a
David
while.
Hudson.
I like his crystal batteries, and actually, that's the last question I'm going to ask you about is these crystal batteries. I made a bunch of them, and I don't quite understand it. Where is the power coming from? But you can get a tiny bit of power out of these crystal batteries for
the piezoelectric of
years
the
on end.
crystal. That again is doing with the resonance and the resonant frequency of crystal. That when they're in a crystal state, I believe crystal is actually
And compacted too.
Crystal is like a 6th or 7th dimension, where plasma is your 4th state of matter. I believe crystals are actually even higher up state of matter than plasma, and that it's that piezoelectric, that vibration of the crystal, and that's where that electricity is then coming from, the movement of the crystal itself.
Like quartz crystals, sure.
Quartz,
that we
exactly.
use in watches, yeah.
Yeah, and that also is over unity that's not really explained or talked about, but it's actual that these crystals, you're harnessing the physical movement, the vibration of them, and turning that into electricity. So that's where it's coming from in a lot of his crystal batteries. And that's another aspect of these monoatomic stuff that there's a guy from MIT that has the patent for liquid state batteries, and it's metals created through electrolysis. Thus, these monoatomic particles and diatomic particles are your superconductors, and that you can actually put a differential anode cathode through these jars. That's what those Leyden jars were back in the day. And that having a coil going down into the monoatomic on one side, and then having a coil that's just above, like just in the water on the other side, that creates enough differential that I measured a 7-volt coming out of it for like 6 months one time. And I'm going to do some new experiments now. I've got little tiny capacitors that I've gotten for the circuits for little LEDs that will be...
Yeah, Joule thieves help a lot with that.
Yeah.
Do you know the circuit Joule thief?
So I will...
Joule, I mean, Joule thief
not.
circuit? A lot of people use these Joule thief circuits, and they kind of use a capacitor and a couple other things to pulse the power coming out of experiments.
Oh yes. Okay,
so you could use a Hutchinson crystal little battery to power an LED or something like that.
Yeah.
With the Joule thief circuit involved.
So that's what I'm going to try to do with a couple of my monoatomic and triatomic jars, to show that there can also be, like Hutchinson style crystal batteries, these same monoatomic superconducting liquid metal batteries as well. And
that'd be something I'd sure like to see. So listen, I think we did a good introduction, and I don't want to go too much.
Absolutely,
I don't want to go any deeper tonight, and I especially want to again caution everybody. I don't recommend drinking anything that you're not
and
sure
also
of. And
don't try to use
doctor.
power. Don't do what I'm doing. Like, I've been doing this for 8 years. Like, I've been drinking certain waters for 4, but there's a huge list of things I know that I will never go around or try or anything. Like, you use the wrong metal.
You're a braver man than me. You're drinking this
going to
nutty
give yourself
stuff.
radiation poisoning. You're going to cause yourself cancer. You're going to kill yourself.
Don't, in short, folks, don't try this at home. Don't try this at home. Yeah.
Do not try it at home.
So I'm going to throw you out here now and do a quick wrap up.
Sure,
I appreciate you finally
respect.
making it here, and we'll see if we can't do it again. Sure. Let me throw out. Wait a minute. No, we're gonna remove that one. And,
love you
all.
all.
We'll see you. Thanks for doing this.
I must say, Steve, I love your work. I got all the respect in the world for you, because although you're a skeptic, you're a investigative.
No, I'm a skeptical believer.
Investigative journalist, though, right? Well, and everybody needs a healthy level of skepticism to be
Yeah, I
able
wear a
to
lot of
use the
hats around
brain
here.
to understand. If everyone just believes everything, like without dissertation, without looking into it, you're leaving your mind, your brain on the ground. You know, like you have
Yeah,
to do the
absolutely.
research, you have to do the hard asking questions, you have to look into it, and you do that, and you've discovered so much bullshit out there, and I have all the respect in the world for you for doing
Well,
that.
thank you. I appreciate that. All right, you have a good evening. All right, friends. What can I say? We've had an introduction into this, some of the strange science and the ancient art of alchemy. I'm not sure. You know, I am. I don't know. I'm still fascinated by it all and the possibilities of it. Right? Wouldn't it be great if we could do cold fusion and transmute metals? Wouldn't it be great if we could find room temperature superconductors? That would make amazing things possible. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could transmute lead into gold or platinum, right? And or lithium, and stop the lithium slave trade, right? Or any combination of incredible things could be possible if some of this stuff was real and accurate. Uh, though alchemy, like UFOs, has been filled with people that have made a lot of weird claims. Some throughout history would claim for their king or queen that they would transmute lead into gold, and then they weren't able to do it, and they got hung for it. Uh, so it's a strange and murky, viewing glass that we have to view these things through, and even these things in history. But still, I'm looking in that looking glass anyway to see what it is that we can learn from these ancient things. So, friends, I want to thank our guest tonight, Bernard the Alchemist. If let us know in the comments. Do you want to hear more from him or people like him? Let us know in the comments. I got to tell you, friends, I'm always happy when there's an audience. And tonight we had a great one. And I want to thank my guest once again. We had to try this a few times to finally get it. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.